The training that came on top of that, of course, we talk about skills, we talk about leadership, we talk about military psychology, all of the things that are complex subjects, but yet are layers that you must absorb and you must apply to yourself before you can go on. The technical skills, everything that I learned in Special Forces, particularly survival, was important to me. But again, there was a bonding, and I think this was particularly important for Special Forces. There was bonding on the teams between the individuals, the loyalty between the individuals, and the fact that everyone else you knew was depending on you, and you could depend on them. So there was the idea, I won't fail. I'll keep trying until I get it done. Then I think the code of conduct was important. Now, unfortunately, when the code of conduct was taught in the early 60s and the late 50s, the code, which had been developed after the Korean War in all of its entirety, had been virtually reduced to one simple lesson: give the big four and nothing more. Name, rank, service number, date of birth, and shut up. If you go beyond that, you failed. That was probably the greatest tragedy in terms of military education, in that we had simplified a code which in itself gave us the direction that we needed in the prison camps as to what we should try to do. Unfortunately, when they taught, they focused on the one portion which said, I am bound to give only name, rank, service number, and date of birth. That was where they got the big four and nothing more. What they didn't focus on was the next line says, I will evade answering further questions to the utmost of my ability, which gave you the ability and the right to think for yourself based on the situation and what you knew to be right. Well, again, the unfortunate thing was that the code was what to do, but it didn't tell you how to do it. And that was the great failing at that time. Ultimately, that's why we built SEER for the Army. SEER is the toolkit that tells you how to comply with what the code requires of you. But those were the things that I took in to the prison camp with me. The foundation from the home, which was of great strength to me, the concept of religion bordering on faith, but of course being very rushed, never having time to really consider what faith was. To use a military metaphor, I had a full round or a full magazine, I just didn't know how to fire it. And so I had everything I needed, and it wasn't until I got into the prison camp that I had to draw from these strengths and all of this experience that I really began to put things into perspective. But those are the areas that you look at.
I've heard you mention before that when you go into a prison camp, that all the tangibles are taken away from you, and you only take in what you've got inside of you.
Exactly.
So you've talked about those, the values that were taught in your home and in church, values that you got at West Point. Seems the key issue in that camp was the issue of dealing with yourself. And it seems to me again, a key point in survival is keeping faith with yourself. How did you keep yourself tied into these values and live them out in such a way that you knew that you were keeping faith with yourself while a prisoner and under such stress and pressure?
Well, you've hit on a key point there, Chaplain, because again, the enemy, and I'm talking about the communist system worldwide, because this is the communist management system, prisoner management. It goes back to respondent conditioning, Pavlovian conditioning, and basically what they've done is they have stripped everything material away from you. Those things that we depend upon, which are external to give us either identity or power, are gone. You're reduced to the individual, and in my case, in a pair of black PJs, sitting in a cage in a swamp forest. Now, there was no rank that I could use to get anything done. There was no weapon that I carried to enforce any directive that I might issue. There was nobody out there in terms of the enemy who was going to listen anyway. So what you are matching is your inner strengths, your beliefs, your loyalties, your faiths, and your standards, your ethics and your standards against a system which is designed first to compromise them in your own eyes, second of all to destroy them, and then third to cause you to reverse your beliefs and accept an entirely new set of beliefs. So the first thing you admit to yourself is, I'm afraid.